All right, welcome back to BUS 478 Strategic Management. Today we're going to talk about evaluating the internal and external environments. You know we got to do that. We have got to get in there and find out some information so number one, we can figure out where we are right now. We're answering that first question now. Where are we? Because until we know where we are, we really can't determine where we want to go and how we need to get there. So we're going to look at internal and external environments. Now if I ask you, where would you go first? You'd say, well, let's go internal, and I would agree 100% with you. It's easy going internal. I call up marketing, I say, what were sales last year? And they might, well, I'm busy, I can get to you this afternoon. That's fine. So you're going to get a little resistance, but you're dealing with your own team, and they're going to help you out. Sure, I'll get you those financials, I'll get you those sales reports, et cetera, et cetera. Going external is a lot harder. Call your competitor and say, this is Mike from your competitor. What were your sales last year? They go, we appreciate your interest in our company and blah, blah, blah. They ain't going to tell you nothing. If they promise they'll get it to you, they won't. So going externally is harder, a lot harder. Plus it's huge. So we're going to start there. You'd go internal first, I agree, but it's only going to take about that long to talk about internal analysis. External is huge, so we're going to have to spend a little more time on that. Now, as you know, external is everything that's outside of your company, the entire universe. So it's like, it's infinite, basically. So how do I even begin to approach an infinite task? Well, they've broken it down into 3 areas of basically infinite size, but at least my brain goes, okay, it's only 3 areas, I can do that. So this is just a way to psychologically get you started. 3 areas of the external environment that we're going to talk about are remote, industrial, and operating. Remote, industrial, and operating. We're going to talk about all 3 of those. And every time I put a list up here, I've told you this before, it goes from big and broad to a little more narrow to, you know, basically as tight as we can get it and still talk about it. So remote, industrial, and operating. So let's start with the remote environment. The remote environment is huge. In the remote environment, we have things like competitors and the general economy and government regulations and labor. In the big macro picture, we call labor labor. When we get to the micro level, which we will, we talk about employees. So when I'm talking about labor in the remote environment, I'm talking about national unemployment rate. I'm talking about the size of the labor force in general. So the remote environment is huge. So when I'm talking about government in the remote environment, I'm talking about federal laws that prohibit advertising cigarettes on TV. That's part of that huge remote environment. You need to know that. You need to gather information from that. And that's the key here. Your relationship with the remote environment should be that I'm gathering information. I'm knowledgeable of what it's doing. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. There's not a whole lot you can do to influence it. Yeah, people go, oh, that's not true. When it comes to government, you can hire lobbyists and send them to Washington. If you think lobbyists walk in and tell senators and congressmen how to vote, you're crazy. What your lobbyist does is form a friendship between you and that company. But number 2, the biggest thing a lobbyist does is they call back to Alabama. If you're Rydell and you make athletic clothing, they call back and they go, I just heard a rumor that there's a textile bill coming up in about 6 months and it's going to blah, 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 and we need to get out in front of this. So what they call and tell you is there's a train headed straight for you. I'm letting you know. So at least you can either get off the track or kind of bend a little bit. We need to weather this storm as well as we can. So that's basically what your relationship with the remote environment should be. I'm aware of it so that I can adjust to it. You're really not going to influence the external environment. or the remote environment, excuse me. You're not going to really influence that remote environment. You need to be aware of it so that you can adapt to it. So that's the key to a remote environment. But you need to have people tied in. You need to have those information gathering points, because that's the key. You have to gather good information. The second level, industrial. The industrial environment, here's where we're going to meet a dear friend, and we're going to be dealing with him forever in this course. A gentleman named Michael Porter, who is like the godfather of strategic management. It's not nearly as cool as being the godfather of soul, but it's the godfather of strategic management. What's he calling? Oh my God, I don't need to talk to him. Lord help me. Yes, sir, can I help? President Obama, thank you. Look, Mr. President, stop. I know they got you over a barrel. Stop. Just listen to me. Calm down. We can fix this. You didn't listen to me last time. You're going to listen? You're going to listen? All right, this is it. You got to listen this time. We can fix that. Calm down. I'm right in the middle. I really can't talk right now. Tell you what. Call me back tonight. I'm going out to eat. Call me back about 8 o'clock tonight. I will take your call then. It's going to be okay. Just calm down. They can't do that. We've got a constitution. They cannot call me, but take a deep breath. Go smoke a cigarette. Come on. I know you're not supposed to, but go out back, smoke a cigarette. All right. Call me. I'll be waiting on your call. Peace. Bye. Sorry. I apologize. Sometimes you just have to take those calls. Michael Porter, industrial environment. Remember, remote environment, now industrial environment. Still pretty big, still part of that external environment, but a little more manageable. Here's where we meet Michael Porter, godfather of strategic management. And when I was interrupted, like I said, he's not the godfather of soul, ain't nobody James Brown, but the godfather of strategic management. And here's why. And I talked about putting things in lists, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Michael Porter was a genius at this. And the reason I think he's so famous is, well, number one, smart guy. He really thinks well. But he comes up with a thought, and he'll write a book that's 3 inches thick. But the first page of the book will say, we're going to cover 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, because I think those things are important to whatever you're reading about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the rest of this 3-inch book is going to explain how to analyze those 5 points in hideous detail. But the point is, I'm not going to remember 3 inches of a book, but I can remember 5 things. So Michael Porter, at this point, when it's talking about industrial environment, he says, you need to focus on one big thing initially. So here's the thing. If I said, tell me a couple of things that are very important to your business in terms of its success, its continuation, its profitability, whatever, you'd probably throw up same list I've always come up with. I'd come up with customers, production, employees, my competitors maybe, government, and we're going to leave that up a minute. This is what Michael Porter said. He said, if you only had 1 minute in the morning, that's all you had, hypothetical, 1 minute, and you could only think about one of these, what's the most important one? What would you spend the first minute of every day thinking about and dealing with? So, we would have our vote. So go ahead and vote. I bet a lot of you said customers, number one. Well, of course. Without customers, good gracious, we'll go crazy. A lot of you said government. If you don't follow government, they can shut you down. I went, of course. So Michael Porter said all of these are important. In fact, his list went a lot longer than our list. He said all of these things are important. And that's not what I'm saying. He said, I'm not saying ignore these. You can't ignore any of these. I said if you only had 1 minute to think about one of these, in the beginning of every morning, what would you worry about? And this is what Michael Porter said. He said, my answer Michael Porter's answer is that I would worry about my competition. And here's why. See, this is what he put in his book. You had to read the 3 inches of book to get to this. But he said, let's take customers, for instance. Do your customers want you to be alive tomorrow, in business tomorrow? Absolutely. I don't know what kind of soap you use, but I guarantee it's the same soap you've been using for years. And if you went to the store and they didn't have Dial tomorrow and you used Dial all your life, you would be one mad puppy. No, I want Snickers to make me a Snicker bar tomorrow. You better believe it. So I want the candy company to continue tomorrow. I want them to be successful. Does the government want you to be in business tomorrow? You might not think so, but of course they do. You pay their bills. You give them tax dollars. They, of course, want you in business tomorrow. Do your suppliers want you in business? Absolutely. That's where they make their money. Do your employees want you to be in business tomorrow? Absolutely. You're paying their salaries. Without you, they would die. Do your competition want you to be in business tomorrow? Absolutely not. They want you to die in a fiery crash and painfully die. And they want to watch it. They want to videotape it and run it on slow. That's how bad they want you to die tomorrow. Michael Porter says you need to understand that about your competition. They want you to die. And they're doing everything they can to legally kill you. So Michael Porter said, if I only had a minute to think about this group, you daggone straight I'm going to think about competitors because they want to kill me. Everybody else wants to kind of help me be around. My competition wants me dead as a doornail. So Michael Porter says, let me give you a way to analyze your competition. Michael Porter initially called it his competitive analysis. It's since morphed into the 5 forces model. I don't care what you call it. You need to know the 5 forces model, though, because that's what you're going to hear in a meeting. Oh, yeah, Michael Porter's 5 forces model, because that's what now is in the text. But Michael Porter said there's 5 levels of analysis that you need to go through to analyze your competition. I'm going to put them up here in a minute, but I would say, what do you think the first one should be? And if you're like me, when I first was asked this question, I went, well, I'd have a list of my customers in order from the most sales or whatever, most profit, down to the lowest. So I want to know who my competition is and the power they have. That would have been my first choice. That would have been my first pick. And Michael Porter addresses this. He said, your first choice probably would have been this. And he said, but if you haven't done that already, you're probably not in business, you probably went bankrupt, and you don't have enough money to buy my book. So Porter's assuming that we've got that. So let me just go ahead and give you a little clue. In your top desk drawer, you need to, once every, I would say month, but at the minimum every quarter, you need to write down, here are my competitors in order of power. You need to know that. Don't look at me and go, I don't know who they are. Well, then I'm going to fire you. If you don't know who your competitors are, why am I paying you to work for me? You need to know who your competition is and in power. And the reason I say look at it every month, it changes. So if at the end of the month it hadn't changed, you look at it, it took you 5 seconds to look at it, throw it back in there. But if it changes, dadgummit, spend 30 seconds, excuse me, and change that list. You need to have it in, and if you do that, it'll stay in your brain. You need to be able to throw that out in a meeting. Well, I know what our top competitors are, and I know their position. I know their sales, or I know their assets, whatever. They'll think you're a genius. Do that. So Michael Porter has assumed you've already done that. Now, armed with that list, he is ready to start talking about his 5 forces model or his competitive analysis model. And the first thing he says do, look at your threat of new entrants. So here's how you'd use this. You're a manager, you're having a meeting, your people in front of you, and you go, we're going to talk about our threat of new entrants. And they're not going to know what you're talking about, and you got to explain it to them. But you're going to say, right now, we're going to put them on this blackboard. We're going to put them on this chalk, whatever, because we need to talk about this. And there's no right answer here. This is kind of brainstorming. We're going to talk about this threat of new entrants. What do I mean by that? A new entrant is somebody who is not in your industry right now. somebody who is not somebody that's on your competitive list, your competition list, but could come in at a minute's notice. You're looking for people who could sneak up behind you. So here's an example of why we need to do that. If it was 1970 and I said, how many credit cards do you have in your wallet? You'd probably say 2 at the most. You would have an American Express card and you'd have a MasterCard. Most of us didn't even have that. About 1975, you probably had American Express, MasterCard, and a Visa. And just rocked right along. Just everything's fine. American Express was #1. Back then it wasn't even a credit card. You had to pay it monthly. Now they've kind of gone in the credit business. MasterCard was catching up with them and MasterCard was simply credit, straight credit. So was Visa. And they ruled the roost until about 1983, 84. Ruled the roost. They had 100% of the business. By about 1987, there was a new player in town that had captured about 40% of the entire business. In other words, these three went from 100% down to 60%. And somebody else had 40% of the market. Just ate them alive, out of the blue. Had never been in this business before. Who was it? It was Discover. And you go, okay, so no big deals. So, and I ask you, well, who issues Discover card? And you're probably going to say, well, I don't know, Chase Manhattan, Bank of America, one of these big, huge banks, because that's who finances. That's who lends you the money to start a credit card. Who owns Discover? I'll tell you who owns Discover. Sears owns Discover. Sears. What does a company that sells lawnmowers and drapes know about the high finance of a lending item like a MasterCard? A lending instrument that big, how do they know that? They sell tools. Good gracious. They sell tents. They don't know nothing about finance. Here's the deal. Everybody in this room's got a grandmother or a parent, grandmother, I guarantee, that had a Sears credit card. Sears had been issuing credit since the early 50s, probably before that. And they had a Sears credit card. My mother had a Sears credit card, which means you can go to Sears and walk out with a product and not have to put any cash down. A Sears credit card. In fact, every time you went into Sears and you bought, I don't know, $5 screwdriver, doesn't matter, as they put your receipt in the bag, they also put a credit card application. And people just filled them out and sent them in. So the point is, in 1983, Sears had a database with people. Let me tell you who the people were, by the way. Did you know that about 15 years ago, 92% of all Americans went into a Sears at least once a year? I'm going to ask you if that's good, and you're going to go, If you have a business that 90% of a country goes into once a year, that's unbelievable. You need to be having a party that's so good. That's called traffic flow. That's unbelievable. So everybody in the United States went into Sears at least once during the year, and everybody got a credit card application. You talk about coverage. Talk to your marketing professor about that. You talk about coverage. So by 1983, a bunch of those Americans had sent in that application, and Sears had said yes to a lot of them. So in 1983, Sears had a database of all of these people, millions, who had done credit with Sears, and they had their payment record. So they went through and did a search, and they used their IT guy, and they said, I want you to give me a list of everybody and the criteria. They can't have ever been 60 days late. I'll let them be 30 or 45 days late. They can't be 60 days late. So cut it off at 50. 50 or less days late. Give me that list. course, that list was huge. Sears sent every one of them a letter and said, by the way, here's a brand new credit card. All you have to do is sign this. Got to sign. Sign this, send it back. We will send you a credit card with $1,000 in it. People went, absolutely, I'll take that. I'm not going to use it, but I'll take it. Well, you know you're going to use it if you take it, by the way. Credit cards are the devil. Let me go ahead and tell you that. If you got one, you're going to use it. So anyway, all of a sudden, Sears had their own customer base right there. They just said, here's a new credit card. Would you like it? And people went, absolutely. The American Express and the MasterCards and the Visas, they were looking at banks. They were looking at financial institutions. They never looked at Sears. They never considered them a threat of new entrants. So threat of new entrants, there are two keys. How do you identify them? Two keys. Number one, who has the expertise? Who knows about it? They should have known. I guarantee you, everybody in that meeting at American Express talking about who could come in, they had a Sears card in their pocket. They just didn't consider it a credit card. Number one, who's got the experience? Number two, who's got the money? We call it capital in the business terms, but who's got the money to finance a new credit card company? Because you got to have a bunch of money. Because when you give Sears that credit card and buy something for $100, you have to give Sears, if you're the credit card company, you give Sears $100 right then, that day. So you're financing that. Okay, and your payback is when the customer pays you back, and then you charge them the interest, and that's how you make your money, and y'all knew all that. Threat of new entrants. The second thing Michael Porter said you need to watch out for, or talking about our competitors, is something he called intensity of rivalry. How intense of a rivalry exists? A lot of people think IBM and Microsoft and Apple have an intense rivalry. They kind of do, but they kind of don't, because Microsoft's up here and Apple's down here in terms of sales and coverage. The classic example of intensity of rivalry among two large companies is Coke and Pepsi. Y'all knew that. Y'all were saying that. Coke and Pepsi. So here's my deal. So again, how do you practically use this? We're having our meeting, and you're going, dudes, we need to talk about intensity of rivalry. And you put the two companies up you want to talk about, and you go, okay, from 1 to 10, 1 being not intense at all to 10 being 10 eat up with intensity. Where are we? How intense is our competition? Well, you know, if you sell nails, it's probably a 2 or 3. That's almost a commodity thing. That's not real intense. But if it's Coke and Pepsi, yeah, I'm going to give you a 10. So here's the deal. Coke and Pepsi, let's all agree, very intense rivalry. Absolutely. So let's get off that a minute. Let me ask you a question. How many of you out there have had a Coke product in the last 2 weeks? That could be anything from a Coke to a Dasani water to whatever their sport drink's called. I don't know. Minute Maid tea. Minute Maid orange juice. It's owned by Coca-Cola. So I would bet most of you would say, yes, I've had a Coke product. If I said, how many of you in the last 2 weeks have seen a Coke advertisement or an advertisement for one of their products, I bet it would be 100%. Billboard, TV, doesn't matter, 100%. Coca-Cola has the largest advertising budget per sales dollar than any company in the world. There are other companies that spend more annually on advertisement, but not per sales dollar. My question is, every one of you knows Coke. Just about every one of you has bought a Coke product in the last 2 weeks. Why are they spending so much money advertising to you? Pepsi does the same thing, by the way. And you go, well, you're right. They should just quit spending all that daggone money on advertising because I drink their product anyway. Well, Coca-Cola knows me and you are so fickle that the minute they quit telling us how good Coke is and showing us how good Coke looks as people drink it, me and you go buy a Pepsi, because Pepsi would drop their price by 3 cents. We'd go, oh, 3 cents. And we'd start buying Pepsi, and Coke would go out of business. And Coke knows that, and Pepsi knows that. And that's why they will never quit advertising, because they know me and you are fickle. So that intensity of rivalry is very, very, very high. Just extremely high. Now, we know a couple of things about intensity of rivalry. So let's say we're doing an analysis and we determine, yeah, it's a 10. We're just eat up with intensity. Two things you need to know. Number one, it's very costly. So we need to now in our meeting go, we decided to be an intense rivalry. I know that it's going to be very costly. Let me look at my finance guy and go, okay, where can we get some money? Now I need to look at my production people and go, can you produce at this level? We've got to have that production. So number one, it's very costly. Number two, it's very profitable. If you are successful in an intensely rival situation, you will be highly profitable. You just will be. And you look at Coke and you look at Pepsi and you go, proof is in the pudding. Look how much money they make. And that's fine. I'm glad they make all that money. But they know that. But to make that money, they have got to spend a fortune. So they don't sit in a meeting and go, ooh, I don't know if we can do that. They go, oh, absolutely. Kick it on out. You know, their biggest concern is not can we afford it. The biggest concern is where do we go to get the money so we can afford it. That's their strategy. Third thing, pressure from substitutes. Substitutes. Go back to your marketing text. If I said, what's a substitute for Coca-Cola? And you said RC, 7-Up, I don't know, whatever. Those are not substitutes. Those are competitors. A substitute product, by definition, is a product that satiates the need that the original product would have satiated. Satisfies, just a fancy word. In other words, I'm thirsty. Well, a Coke will satisfy my thirst. But there are other products that are not colas that will satisfy my thirst. Sports drink, water, beer, doesn't matter. That will satisfy my thirst. So here's the deal. There are substitutes out there that go, we can make a product that would appeal to thirsty people. A lot of Coke buyers are thirsty. So what can we do to appeal to that thirsty person? Substitutes a lot of times focus on price to get you to vote their way. So here's the deal. You walk into a convenience store. Back in the day, I can remember when convenience stores didn't exist. That's how old I am. But when they first started, there'd be a little cooler, and that cooler was not that wide. And it had Coke product, Pepsi product, and some beer. That was it. Now you walk into a convenience store, it's all the way across the back, and sometimes down the side. And every liquid product you can imagine just about is in that cooler. So now you're thirsty and you go, God, I need a Coke. That's the first thing goes through, yeah, I just want a Coke. You don't say I'm thirsty, you just know. Your body says, go get a Coke. So you walk into the convenience store with your dollar and you're getting ready to vote. And you walk in, and as you're looking for the Coke, because it's in there somewhere but no telling where, you're passing by water, tea, fruit juice, over here is some sports drink. Oh, there's the beer section. God, that would be good, a good old cold beer. As you're walking through to vote on. And so substitutes are trying to get your vote. That water company is trying to get your vote, your Coke dollar vote. They're trying to steal your vote. So there's pressure from these substitutes. So, kind of an aside, Coca-Cola's got its own little company, and they're rocking along, and they're doing great, and all of a sudden they notice that there's this new thing called bottled water. My father thought that was the dumbest thing he'd ever heard. That'll never work. Guess what, Pops? A bottle of water costs more than a Coke now. Have you thought about that? But we pay it, don't we? So anyway, Coke's sitting there, and all of a sudden somebody comes up with a bottle of water. And they're going, God, we have a truck that goes to this store every day. But all it's got on is Coke. We know how to bottle better than anybody in the world. We invented the process. Why don't we come up with a bottled water? So they went out and they have a bottled water. It's called Dasani. and they either design it themselves or they go buy that bottled water company. I don't care how they did it. All of a sudden, you've got this Dasani. By the way, Coca-Cola is on the Dasani bottle. You have to look real hard to find it. It doesn't say Coca-Cola, it says Dasani. And you go, oh, that's great. They don't want you to know Coke owns this. And maybe I'm really crazy. I want some orange juice. Well, you can go get some Minute Maid, a bottle of Minute Maid orange juice right there in the convenience store. Guess who owns that? Look at the back, tiny print, Coca-Cola. I really want a Gatorade, but this thing packaged prettier than you are. I mean, the Gatorade is, and you buy it and you find out, God, that was good. Coke has a sports drink. They have a bottle of water. They have juice, and they've got Coke, and they've got other things too. So that's how Coke handled these substitutes, because they knew people were going to come in these substitutes. So Coke said, I'm going to offer them. So in hopes to win your vote. Two things about substitutes. Number one, substitutes tend to keep your price down. So if Coke is $1.50 a bottle, and I walk into a convenience store and all I got's $1, and there's a water there for $1, well, I kind of wanted a Coke, but I'll buy that $1. So Coke can't raise its price. Coke's got to be close. I wanted a Coke. If Coke had been $1.05 and the water was $1, I might have bought the Coke. But a good substitute will keep your price down, number one. Number two, the more profitable you are, the more substitutes you can expect to be in the market. Anybody ever go fishing when you were little? You and your cousins, I can remember this, and your dads would, give you that cane pole, and you're here, and about 20 feet down is Cliff, and about another 20 feet is Mark, and my brother's 20 feet over there, and we're all sitting there with our corks bobbing in the water. And all of a sudden, Mark, way down there, we see him. He starts screaming because he's getting a bite. Where did we go put our hooks? Right on top of Mark. Oh, that's where the fish are. We went right down there. The more profitable you are, the more people are going to fish in your pond. You need to know that. So expect that. See, strategically expect that. As you're talking, as you look at your profits and they're going up, you say, guys, in terms of competition, we're going to have some new players on the market. I guarantee it. Now, where are they going to be? Who are they going to be? Etc. This is strategy. You are thinking about the future, not about today. You're thinking about the future. You have to think about today. Here it is. Can't change today. So, number three, pressure from substitutes. Number four and number five are basically the same. Pressure from suppliers and pressure from buyers. Pressure from suppliers and pressure from buyers. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you're a company and you use a certain, let's say you use ammonia in your process. I don't know why, but you buy it by the millions of gallons. And you've got 10 people in your industry that make ammonia. I'm making this up. 10 people. And again, hypothetical as it can be, and you buy about 10% from every one of them. And they're supplying you with ammonia. Well, number 10 calls you up one day and says, well, it's about time to renew our order. And you go, okay. And you go, yeah, but, they go, yeah, but last order was $1 a gallon. We're going to have to go up on you 10 cents a gallon, by 10%. Because we've got cost overruns and blah, blah, blah. And you go, you're crazy, dude, I can't pay that. And they go, no, we're staying, we're just telling you to give us our word. And you say, bye, see ya. They don't have a lot of power over you. All you have to do is now go replace 10% of your raw materials. Now that may be hard. You call some other people up. You call one of your suppliers who was giving you 10%. Hey, can you give me 12%? Yeah, so you can find 10%. However, there's only 3 main suppliers of ammonia. One of them produces 40% of the world's population. The other's 30 and 30. The other two are 30 and 30. And so, excuse me, not the world's population, your sales. You've only got three suppliers. One of them is 40%. The other two provide you 30%. If any one of those calls up and says, look, next week I'm going to have to charge you $1.10 instead of $1, what do you tell them? You cannot tell them to go away. where you're going to find 30% more raw materials. You can't do it. They know that. And they know you know that. So you go, yeah, well, I guess that's okay. We can try to make that work. Then you hang up the phone and go, what am I going to do? My profit margin just took a 30% hit. I can't have that. I'm going to have to deal with that. But I can't tell him to go away, because if he goes away, I'm 30% under production immediately. So the key to either pressure from suppliers or pressure from buyers is know how many you have. And if you only have a few on that list, they have power over you. Same way with buyers. You got 10 customers that buy from you, and they all buy about 10%. And one of them says, no, I can't pay that. I got to pay. You can tell him, go away. That's fine. I'll find somebody else to buy it. But if you've only got 3 buyers, 40, 30, and 30, you can't tell them to go away. You go, yeah, I can break your price, knowing that as minute you do that, the other 2 are going to call you and say, hey, I heard you gave him a break. Give me that break. Now, what to tell you to do about that, I don't know. You know, it's like, well, if you've only got 3, you know, suppliers or buyers, go find some more suppliers or buyers. Well, do you want to make your current buyer and supplier mad? They've never messed you up. They've always supplied you well or bought from you well. So, you know, going out and trying to find new customers or new suppliers, that's going to make them mad. So the point is, it's a tough situation. The first thing I would say is you have to be aware of it. You have to know that there's a potential issue there. So that's how you deal with pressure from suppliers or pressure from buyers. Now, we've talked about the remote environment. We talked about the industrial environment, Michael Porter and his famous 5 forces model. Now we're going to talk about the operating environment. The operating environment is really like the remote environment, basically the same players. Remember, in the remote environment, we had something called labor force, unemployment, national employment rate, et cetera, et cetera. We still have labor down here, but we don't call it labor, we call it employees. We see these people every day. At the operating level, they have a name. They have a price. They have a skill level. So the national level and your operating level might be completely different. So when you get to the operating level, it's true. It's called employees. Government is still there. You don't have to have a lobbyist. You just need to go to the city council or county council meeting every month and sit there and be your own lobbyist. You need to join the Rotary Club and eat lunch once a week with the mayor and with the director of engineering. And you need to do that. So you need to have your own little lobbying thing going. Suppliers, they're down the road. You know where their factory is. You know which interstate they use to get to your business. So operating is a much more micro view, and you know these players intimately, or you need to. And that's the key. You've got to know intimately the players in your operating environment. You have to know them. So what do y'all think about that? I mean, you've got to be focused on that, and you've got to know your players well. All right, calm down, calm down. I know that was exciting. I could see by your reaction you love that. I like an energetic crowd as much the next time, but y'all getting crazy, so just calm down. So that was just way too much. I know that was cool. I know this stuff's exciting, but you guys just you're killing me here. All right, now we're going to talk about, I'm going to put it up here because it's a mouthful. It's just like magic. Thinking competitively about a company's industry and environment. Thinking competitively about a company's industry and environment. You know, Michael Porter said, These guys want you dead. That's why we're just banging on this drum. You got it. This has got to be like almost a religion to you. I need to worry about my competitors. I just need to understand and know, not worry about it. That's a bad word. I need to know everything about my competitors. I need to know more about them than they know about themselves. All right, number one. There's 7 of these. Number one. Does the industry offer attractive opportunities for growth? Is somebody, am I getting a bite on my line? If somebody looks at you and goes, God, look at how much they're selling. Man, think how we could jump in that pond and catch those fish too. So number one, does the industry offer an attractive opportunity for growth? If it does, look out. Number two, what kind of competitive forces are industry members facing and how strong are they? If I was, from the analysis, if I'm looking at that, what kinds of forces and how strong, and I'm looking, and I'm Pepsi, I'm going, there's all kinds and they're strong as they can be. Other industries might not come to that conclusion. But we need to say, what kind of forces are going on here? Is it price? Is it supply chain kind of forces? Is it demand forces? We just need to look at all of those things. And also look at how strong are they. So list them and how strong are they. Third thing, what forces are driving industry change here? And what impacts will they have? What forces are driving industry change? Easy one, first one I come to is technology. How's technology changing what we do? Think of the phone industry. Oh my goodness. You know, and if you think we're done, see, I used to have a rotary phone. I've still got my mom's rotary phone. Holy moly. Try calling your credit card company with a rotary phone. Please put your customer number in. Oh my, it won't work. And that was in my lifetime. And y'all think, oh, we're done. Y'all don't have a clue what they're getting ready to do. Neither do I, but y'all don't have a clue. Get ready for it. It's going to be so wonderful. But it's driving, that technology is driving the industry and the changes within the industry. Number four, how are industry rivals positioned? Who is strong and who is not? You remember when I said that make that list? Don't just make a list, make it in priority. Who's the king bee around here? Who's driving this thing? And, you know, and then who are the also-rans, and then who are the people down here at the bottom? You need to know that. You need to already have that list ready to go. Number five, what strategic moves are rivals likely to make next? I agree. I'm asking you to have a crystal ball. But you kind of know what you're getting ready to do next. And you've seen smoke signals from your other competitors, and you go, you know what I think they're getting ready to do? I just have a feeling. I heard this at the Rotary. I read this in a industry journal. Man, this is coming down the pipe. We need to be ready for it. I'm trying to anticipate what my competition's move is going to be. What are the key factors to future competitive success? What are the key factors? Is it head-to-head, which usually is the way to do it? Is it better positioning? Is it new product? Is it international movement? I don't know what it is. Is it pricing? Is it packaging? I don't know, but that's what I've got to ask. What are the key factors to future competitive success? What can I do now that are going to make me continue my sustained competitive advantage? Every day. And see, the problem with this is we work so hard to get to that, and the minute we get it, it's obsolete because we got to start all over. And the seventh thing, which I might have put at the first, does the industry offer good prospects for return? I could use the word profits there, but when I use profits, everybody goes, oh. Does the industry offer good prospects for attractive return? In other words, can I make money here? And what are my prospects of making money here? There's nothing wrong with that. That's what we're in business to do. If we don't make business, if we don't make profit, we can't be good corporate citizens, we can't pay our employees, we can't return our investors any kind of return on their investment. So profits are essential. It's the lifeblood. If I don't make profits, I die. So I need to not die. So what are the prospects here? Is this strategy that I'm developing, is it going to result in a good return for my employees, for my stockholders, for the citizens of the United States? We need to ask that question. All right, we talked about a whole lot of things here. We really did. We talked about gathering good information, gathering it from internal and external sources. I gave you some kind of clues on how to gather that information. I appreciate it. Remember, read the book, keep on going, and we'll just, don't turn it off yet. No, don't turn it off. We'll just keep going, and peace. See you. I need to do something else. I left something out. So I'm going to do it right now, and we'll just put it in. All right, we've talked about the external analysis, remote, industrial, and operating. Now we need to go where you will probably go first, internal. Where are we internally? Where is my company right now? Well, again, the reason that's easier. I didn't say it was easy. I said it was easier. Sales, I can call it marketing and say, what are our sales over the last 10 years? Well, they're going to fuzz at you. That's going to be probably tomorrow morning before they can get it to you, but they will. Go do something else, they'll get it to you. Same way with finance. You call your production guy, I'm busy, what are you talking about? I'm down there. And then she's going to say, yeah, I can get it to you tomorrow, next day. The point is, you can get that information, and when you get that information, it will be true. You get it from your competitors, they're going to lie. You get it from the external environment, you really don't know. There's no validity there. But I guarantee you get it internally just about, it's always pretty straightforward and true. Okay, that's great. So where do you go? How do you go about gathering this information? One of the keys way we've looked at is go to the functional areas. I don't know why I think that means functional, but it does. Go to the functional areas of your organization. Now, what do I mean by that? Accounting, finance, production, human resources. I know your company will have those. Some of them have R&D. Some of them have a strategic management function. But the point is, you go to production or marketing or accounting or finance, they're going to have all kind of information and they're going to have all kind of suggestions. So you go to them and you understand how they interact, and you also gather the information from them. Hopefully, your company is like a spider web. Hopefully. And you don't know what a spider web is. Here's one right here. And when you wiggle the spider web, what happens? If I touch it down the very bottom, what happens? Well, the whole spider web wiggles. By the way, the spider built it like that on purpose, because the spider's never in the middle of the spider web hanging out. You don't even see the spider. He's over there. He's touching a part of that one little thread of that, but he's up under a leaf or something touching it. You don't even see him. He knows better than to come out. And you can go and you can wiggle a spider web, and that spider will not come out. He just looks at you like you're an idiot. There's a reason the spider web doesn't come out for you're wiggling it. But you all know that the reason the spider built that is because it vibrates and tells him when something gets stuck in it that he can eat. And then he'll come. But how come when you wiggle it, he doesn't come? Well, here's the reason for that. This has nothing to do with business, but it's kind of cool. That spider built that web in such a way that he can tell by the vibration what's in the web. And it's my big old fat, if it's my big old fat finger, he's going, I can't eat it. It probably wouldn't taste good anyway. I'm not going to move a muscle. But if it's a fly, he can tell by the vibrations whether it's a fly or not. Absolutely. So if it's a fly, he'll be down there quicker than you can shake a stick at it. If it's my fat finger, he's going, no, not interested. I saw I'm nerdy. I'm flipping the channels one day, and there came one of these nature shows, and there's this guy, and all these nature shows, the guy's got an Australian accent. And he goes, we're looking for this spider. Anyway, he comes, and this spider web, I swear, was 5 feet in diameter. I mean, I'm scared to death of spiders. So I'm like recoiling from the TV. And he finds the spider, and it's up in the corner. Now, I mean, that thing, I swear it was that big around. And I'm getting scared. And he goes, let's see if we can call her, wake up. And he shakes it, takes a stick and pokes that spider doesn't move. He goes, you know what? She's not coming because she can't eat the stick. And anyway, I'm going to quit saying my Australian accent. He said, but I can call the spider. He said, watch this. And he pulled out a tuning fork. Any of you that ever played piano know this. Tuning fork, you hit it, it goes boom, and it vibrates. The piano's tuned to a 440. A is a 440. Vibration's a second, I believe. It's pretty quick. He goes, this is the vibration of a fly, an insect. This is how fast their wings beat, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He said, watch this. He hit it, and he put it on that web, and that thing was down there in 2 seconds. I mean, I'm screaming at the TV. I'm dropping my drink. I'm throwing my Snicker bar across the room. Ah! The vibrations told that spider what was down there. Now, what's this got to do with business? Your business is a spider web. You got marketing and accounting, and you got finance and production. And when something wiggles in one of these areas, the whole spider web wiggles. Production can't have a problem that finance is not going to have to get involved with, or marketing, or HR, or accounting. None of these are in isolation. They all work together. And as you analyze, you do this internal analysis, you need to, one of your answers here is, are they working together? We're getting ready to do this brand new strategy. I can't have finance over there in their own little world not aware that, oh my goodness, we're going to be asking them to be looking for millions of dollars. And they don't need to come to me and go, I don't know what you're talking about. They need to be on board. So part of your internal analysis is to make sure that this spider web exists. And when I shake marketing, production's got to shake too. And all across the board. So that's part of that internal analysis that you need to understand as you go through and look at these functional areas of the business.